Funding for this edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been provided by New Jersey's credit unions, banking you can trust. PSE&G, committed to improving New Jersey's economy and strengthening its communities. The New Jersey Education Association, working for great public schools for every child. Health Republic Insurance of New Jersey. New Jersey Sharing Network, dedicated to saving lives through organ and tissue donation. The Healthcare Foundation of New Jersey, founded by the Jewish community. And by Celgene Corporation, committed to improving the lives of patients worldwide. Promotional support provided by The Star Ledger, powering NJ.com, and by Commerce Magazine.
This is One-on-One.
When you first heard that they were doing Charlie Rose and Gayle King, didn't you go, what?
People like laughing at others, so I don't mind if the other is me.
See, you go right into the character. That's what it is.
I'm bringing families together a half an hour each week. Man, I'm doing something special.
And so I do feel successful.
Welcome to One-on-One. We are honored to have our colleague and friend, Mike Schneider, who you can see every night, early in the evening, late at night, and also again the next morning. Mike Schneider is the managing editor and anchor of NJTV News. Good to see you, buddy.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me back on.
NJTV News can be seen 6, 7:30, and 11 in the evening, and also in the morning, right?
Absolutely.
What time in the morning?
Too early for me.
Very early at 6
About
in the morning.
6:30 usually,
6:30.
yeah.
Mike, let me ask you, NJTV News, under a previous name, right, started out in July of 2011.
Right.
If it were not for NJTV, there would be no public broadcasting in the state. You jumped on board with Neil Shapiro, John Savidio, and a group of us who wanted to see public broadcasting continue. Did you ever think it would be where it is today and be the force that it is?
Not a clue. Not a clue. I thought we'd do some good. We'd cover a state. We'd be a responsible local broadcaster. But sometimes you have to rise to the occasion. And this state, under these circumstances that we have all lived through, and the personalities that have risen to the top of our political game, and the episodes and incidents that have occurred, have made New Jersey national and international news day in and day out, it seems. And for us, it's our hometown story. So we've had challenges we never could have imagined, and we're having an impact that we could have hoped for at the very beginning. It's very gratifying, but it's exhausting.
We're actually doing this relatively early in 2014. Let's just say the eyes of the nation and maybe beyond that are on the state of New Jersey, a whole range of investigations, scandals, and we don't know where things are going to lead. And NJTV News is the place that people go for objective analysis. You can go, did you know this, Mike? You can go to cable news late in the evening and find people with a clear point of view and predict those views every night. Do you know that?
I've heard something about that. I tell you what, there are nights when I go home from work and my wife, who's a physician, gets home from her office and we sit down and she wants to watch the news. She looks at me and she always says, you must be tired of this, but I haven't seen what's going on in the world. And I said, no, because I like to see what else and who else is covering what. Because I worked at one time or another at most of those places anyway.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a moment.
And so we'll sit there and we'll put on. And will this network have news on? No, it's a talk show. Will that network have news on? No, that's a talk show. Will that network have news on? That's a talk show. And I shouldn't even use the word talk, because what they've devolved now into is argument shows. It's not people exchanging ideas and nobody comes away saying, oh, look, we learned something today. In many cases, it's just blather. It's predictable blather. You know, you do a talk show, an interview show, I do them as well, where we come in, we ask questions that just pop into our minds, we do some research, but we also just follow the conversation, right? And we go away, and hopefully the audience goes away having learned something, and there's something good that comes out of it. You can't find a lot of that on most other outlets these days, and you can't find a lot of news on so-called news channels anymore.
As we talk to Mike, you'll see Mike's Twitter information up there. He tweets on a regular basis valuable information, but also the other part of this is that there's a very strong digital presence, an online presence, njtvonline.org. Jackie Cook, our producer, if we can put that up there. There are a whole range of, not just if you've missed the program, if you missed NJTV News, on the air, you can catch it online. But the other thing, Mike, quick talk about this. You're often asking very relevant questions to people in the state of New Jersey, asking them to be a part of the conversation on that website. Why is that so important?
Well, because for one thing, it's it's research. It lets us know if we're plugging into issues that are germane to people's lives. But it's also very important to us to hear what viewers have to think about our coverage and about the issues themselves. And we started doing these social media questions at the beginning, and to be quite honest, I'm from a different generation of communications, so the digital stuff is new to me. And I had, like many of my colleagues of my age, have had to struggle with how do we use this so it's not just a gimmick, it's not just a toy, it's not something that's hype. How do we use it to our advantage? And we found out now through the wonderful folks who work with us on our digital side, on Facebook, on Twitter, on our webpage as well, that if you put out questions that are germane to what's going on, you get an awful lot of response. And more importantly, you get an awful lot of intelligence response. And that helps us figure out, is this a story that's so important to so many people that we can't let it go? We've got to keep going on it.
Real quick, before you came to NJTV, our public television station in the state of New Jersey, affiliated with, connected to WNET, the PBS flagship in New York. Your background in broadcasting, let folks know.
I started out as I was at Temple University in Philadelphia, and I was fortunate enough to, through a series of connections, meet a guy who was my original broadcast rabbi, Larry Kane, who was the anchor man of Philadelphia. And I started writing for Larry when I was still a college senior, and that led to a radio job in the Philly burbs, and then a series of stops in local news markets from Altoona, Pennsylvania to Buffalo to Pittsburgh to Miami, and then back to where I anchored at CBS at Channel 2 for 4 years.
When did the national networks come calling on you?
1989, I got a call from an old friend who was the executive in charge of Good Morning America, said, we need a news anchor and we need a fill-in for Charlie Gibson on the show. How'd you like to do it? And I said, no, I don't think I can fit it into my schedule. I think I'll have to stay home today.
What was that like?
It was extraordinary because I was there. I was the kid on the block. I was probably 30 years old. And who am I sitting around? I've got Ted Koppel there. I've got Peter Jennings there. Hugh Downs, Barbara Walters, Diane Sawyer, David Brinkley, Sam Donaldson. I'm just looking around. This is like, it's like going to play for the Yankees in '63 and saying,
you're talking about Mickey Mantle, Roger Maris, and the whole crew.
Absolutely. It's just the glory days of ABC News. And it was just, to me, I look back and say how fortunate I was to be there at that time.
Gives you perspective where you are right now, you know. But you love and are connected to this state in so many ways. And what I'm curious about is the objectivity. I bet there are folks, because you're always bringing folks in on the Democratic side, Republican side, and different perspectives. I bet there are folks who think they know where you are coming from politically, but they don't know because you don't come from any place politically.
No, I've tried, and you know, when I was coming up as a kid, before I was in the business, I was involved in politics and things like that. And I have some very strong core beliefs about fairness and equality, and I hate prejudice and I hate bigotry. Boom. Go beyond that. You know, now we're talking about policies and issues, and it's legitimate grounds on all sides of those things, almost all sides. Give you a story. I was one of the founding anchors at Fox News, and I went out to cover the Iowa caucuses back in '96.
You were brought in by Roger Ailes.
I was brought in before Roger Ailes, and then the previous regime, who's wanted to build up a political unit at Fox, then when they brought in Roger to create the 24/7 cable operation, Roger had hired me to be the anchor of the flagship newscast at that program. So I actually preceded Roger by maybe about a week. In fact, I told the outgoing news president that I heard rumors that Roger Ailes was being hired to replace him. I broke the news to him.
Look at you.
But what happened was,
I'm saying,
absolutely, and it was one of my great scoops. But I was out in Des Moines, Iowa, and I'm walking around during the caucus, and a guy comes up to me.
Presidential caucus.
Exactly. And there's a guy comes up to me, he's got a little boy, and he's dressed like a farmer, which, you know, is a stereotype, but it turns out he is a farmer. He recognized him. He said, Mr. Schneider, I just want to know how much, want you to know how much I respect what you do and how you tell me, because I have a lot of trouble with a lot of the media because I think they're too liberal. And I was about to say, well, listen, I'm not necessarily what you, and he said, I don't know what you are. I don't want to know what you are. I just want you to know that I think you tell me the truth. And that's a compliment that I carry with me every day of my career.
That's all there is, right?
Yep.
Before I let you out of here, Mike, the future of NJTV News as you see it.
We're growing. I mean, we're growing. The audience has grown exponentially. The stories have gotten hotter. We're adding people as we can, according to the needs and availability of funding. And we take our responsibilities stronger and more aggressively each and every day. We love what we're doing. We've got a great group of people,
great team,
great colleagues.
Great senior correspondent in Desiree.
Desiree, one of the most experienced
And
reporters
how about
in the
our
state.
State House?
The Dean of the State House, Michael Aaron.
Michael's the best.
Nobody knows it more than him. David Cruz is one of the best street reporters, investigative reporters around, and nobody covered the hurricane down the shore better than Lauren Wanko.
Lauren Wanko, terrific down
Yep.
there, right?
Yep.
You love what you do.
Oh, absolutely. I've tried to walk away from this business a couple of times. I was dragged back into it by my desire to keep doing it. I thought for a while, I'd done it long enough, there's got to be something else to do. No, this is the only thing I can do.
It's like a scene in Godfather 3, just when I thought.
They keep dragging me back.
You did it better than Pacino did at the time.
That's what I've been told.
Listen, Mike, we are proud to be your colleagues on this side of the Caucus Educational Corporation.
Likewise.
And when people say, hey, we have a news story, we say we don't do the news. We try to have conversations and put things in context in a different way. The news is done every night on NJTV News, and they put things into context as well. Can I plug again when it's on? Do you mind?
Absolutely.
Do you mind plugging?
No, I can, hold on. Yeah, go ahead.
Even though we're public television, we let people know. You can see NJTV News every night with Mike Schneider, who is not only the anchor, but the managing editor, which means he's very involved in the editorial side. 6, 7:30 p.m., 11 p.m., and also 6:30?
In the morning, I've been told.
And Mike gets up every morning to do that show. So, no, it's the repeat from the night before. Partner, it's great to be with you. And
Likewise, a pleasure, an honor to work with you.
Same here. Stay with us, one-on-one. We'll be right back right after this.
If you would like more information on this program, or if you'd like to express an opinion, email us at info@caucusnj.org. Visit us online at oneonone.org. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Steve Adubato, PhD, and follow us on Twitter at Steve Adubato.
That was good stuff, and this is good stuff right here. Robert Battle, Artistic Director, Alvin, Ailey, American Dance Theater. What were we just looking at right there?
You were looking at a montage of different works. One, the most important work is Revelations, created by Alvin Ailey in 1960. It's really about American history, certainly African American. It's a suite of spirituals that expresses despair and then hope through faith. And it's one of the most seen dances and beloved all over the world.
Speaking of all over the world, it's going to be connected to the New Jersey Performing Arts Center. NJPAC, right?
Yes, yes.
Alvin Ailey and NJPAC, perfect together.
Yes, absolutely.
Talk about that connection.
We performed here when the theater opened, so we've been performing there for about 15 years.
How great is the PAC?
It's wonderful, and especially, I mean, the house is beautiful, the theater's beautiful, but the audience is beautiful because they show up and they show out when we come to town. So it's a nice little thing we have going here.
What's your story?
My story is, you know, I started where the weather wasn't quite like this in Miami, Florida.
I mean, it's cold. We're
yeah.
doing this in the winter. It's cold.
It is cold, and it's hot there. And what made it hotter was when I was 12 years old and the Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater came to Miami to do performances. And one of the student performances, like the one that we'll do here May 12th, I got a chance to see Revelations for the first time at 12 years old. And all I could think of is I want to be like that. I couldn't think that I was going to be like that, or I was going to someday lead this iconic company. But I made my way, yes, I made my way into dance. I made my way to New York City. I got a full scholarship at Juilliard.
You got to help us.
Okay.
For those of us who don't get it, what happened to you when you saw it?
Well, that's the thing. It inspired me. It inspired me. I was a person who was born bow-legged, so the idea of dancing was not in the cards for me, supposedly. I had to have braces to keep my legs straight. And so something about movement I understood early on to signify life. And so when I saw that company, and having grown up in the church, and I saw Revelations, I related to all of that. I related to the struggle in my own way, and that's really what inspired me. And so I made my way to New York City at a full scholarship to the Juilliard School. In the summers, I would study.
You went to Juilliard?
I went to Juilliard, and I made it through.
How great is that?
So with some of my other friends, classmates, like Audra McDonald was there when I was there,
You were
Viola
there?
Davis. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it was something in the water.
Yeah, I would say so. You know, for those who do not know the history of Alvin Ailey, the dance theater started in 1958?
1958.
And who was Alvin Ailey?
Alvin Ailey came from Rogers, Texas, where he experienced a lot of segregation and watched his mother, who raised him, go through that. And so a lot of the works that he created, like Blues Suite, that was some of the music that you were hearing in the montage, was about his blood memories of that, revelations of seeing, you know, people go to church and how they served. So all of that really is a part of the thrust of the company, his experiences and how they shaped the company. Of course, the company started on the brink of the civil rights movement, and he wanted a place where black dancers and choreographers could be on the concert stage, and that's why he started the company. Also, it was very important that it be a repertory company.
What does that mean?
That means that it wasn't just him choreographing all of the dances, that the repertoire, like today, has many different choreographers that contribute to the repertory. Every season we add new works and new choreographers' voices, and that's why the company has remained relevant and expansive.
You know, one of the things that you're doing I find very interesting is the New Directors Choreography Lab.
Yes.
What is that?
Well, you know, New York City, of course, is the cultural mecca, right? And so, but what becomes more difficult, especially for choreographers, we work in a medium where we need time and space and we need bodies to make our art. We can't just do it on an easel. And so that it's difficult for choreographers to be able to afford that in the city, to afford the time to be creative. So I started thinking about how do I bring the outside in to the Joan Wow Center for Dance, of course, our building on 55th and 9th. And one of the things I thought about is utilizing the Ailey School. We have an extensive school and wonderful students, choosing about 4 choreographers a year, and they get a stipend, and they get a chance to work for 7 weeks with the students on anything they want to work on. And that's so important for a creative person, to just have the time to work. And it doesn't have to be a product. And also you get a creative advisor, somebody in the field who's been around, who's seen it all, that can also talk to that emerging choreographer about what it is they're doing. So it's a way to have that mentorship and a way to give people more opportunity.
Who is it that goes into dance? What kind of people?
I think, well, risk takers. I think dancers, you know, you have to wear your heart on your sleeve. I think so. I think that at some point it's not a choice anymore.
What?
No.
Not a choice.
Not a choice. It's in your bones.
You have to dance?
You have to. And I've known dancers who've tried to turn their back on it at a certain point, and they always turn back to it. I mean, it's just, and that's what I look for. We have one audition every year, and hundreds of people show up to audition for the company, and you can feel it when you look in their eyes. Certainly you're looking for all the technical ability and all of that, but there's something about someone who has to dance that is very important. And I think that's why people all over the country and the world love the company so much, because when you see an Ailey performance, you feel an Ailey performance, because the dancers have that hunger, and it never leaves them, even when they stop dancing.
Well, as we put the website up right now, where can people see an Ailey performance?
Well, you go to our website, alvinailey.org, because it's hard to keep up with us. We're starting, next week we head to the Kennedy Center that starts our 23-city tour. And of course, it ends actually at NJTV.
At the PAC.
Yeah, May 10th and 11th. So we save the best for last, right?
All right.
But yeah, so just go to our website and follow us. I'm sure we'll be in a town near you. And that's what we do. Alvin Ailey said that dance is for everybody, and that dance comes from the people and should always be delivered back to the people. And so as cultural ambassadors to the world, that's what we do, and that's why we travel and tour.
You love it, don't you?
I absolutely love it. I can't imagine doing anything else.
Born to do it?
Absolutely. I wanted to be a preacher when I was little. I used to put on my little bathrobe, and my grandfather used to tape the sermon. And so I would learn the sermon, and I would go in the back. I actually took collection. I did all the jobs. I didn't make any money. But in some ways, all of those things that happened early on shaped me to where I am now. And Judith Jamison, who was, who is incredible. She chose me because she saw something in me that reminded her of Mr. Ailey. And so here we are.
The greatest compliment of all.
Yes.
Keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Robert Battle, Artistic Director of the iconic, extraordinary Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater. You honor us. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Stay with us. We'll be right back right after this. Thank you.
If you would like more information on this program, or if you'd like to express an opinion, email us at info@caucusnj.org. Visit us online at oneonone.org. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Steve Adubato, PhD, and follow us on Twitter at Steve Adubato.
There she is, Debbie Poetch, Professor of Mathematics at County College of Morris. How you doing?
Great, thank you.
We're here to talk about the fact that not enough women are entering the fields of science, technology, engineering, and math, otherwise known as?
STEM.
STEM, I like that. Debbie, let me ask you something. I'm curious about this. First of all, why are women not entering these fields at higher rates? What's up with that? Is there some sort of barrier?
Yeah, really it's a stereotypical barrier. Growing up, girls are often pushed into those fields. Especially historically, engineers were always typically men. Girls were kind of pushed more into nursing or education, which are wonderful fields. We need people in there as well. But we're finding that girls, they can perform in the maths and the sciences. They do perform in the maths and the sciences.
When given the opportunity.
Absolutely. And sometimes it's a matter of just being asked. Why don't?
Just being asked?
Just being asked, why don't you consider going into this field? Because maybe they never thought of it, because they, again, always thought, well, that's a man's job.
Right.
Men go into that field. So you've got girls in high school taking calculus, taking the, physics, all these courses that are not using them as careers. And maybe it just takes a high school guidance counselor to say, how about you consider a field of, entering engineering?
Particularly if a young woman has done well in that area. Mm-hmm. It's interesting, at County College of Morris, you're actually doing something about it. You recently got a grant from?
The AAUW, the American Association of University Women.
To do what?
To try to attract and retain women into the STEM fields.
How?
Well, it's about reaching out to our own students, identifying high-performing students that maybe have declared liberal arts majors.
Sure.
A lot of them aren't sure what they want to do, and just saying, hey, you know what? You have a real aptitude in this area. How about you give it a shot? How about you come work with us and see, take an engineering class, take a math class, take a, physics class, and see where you can go with that. We're also reaching out to area high schools and trying to attract the girls before they leave, and again, telling them, look, you're taking calculus, you're taking physics, you're taking chemistry, biology, you're doing well in it. Let's think of a career in this.
And so your institution is actively engaged in doing that through this grant. Why, by the way, why would that American Association of University Women do that?
Because they're very involved in just promoting everything that can help women be more successful. And in the STEM fields, women who have a STEM career earn 33% more than women in a non-STEM field.
Whoa, back up. 30, on average.
On average.
A woman who enters a field related to science, technology, engineering, and math will earn 33% more annually than what?
Than any other career that's non-STEM related.
Wow.
Yeah. And in fact, there's still a gender imbalance in terms of salary, even in the STEM fields, but it's much smaller.
But the other thing I was thinking, I was just saying this to Jacqueline Heyer, our producer, right before we got on, I said, so, what's the difference? I mean, it would be great, first of all, that they would earn more, because it helps the economy, it helps their family. But then I thought, what is the difference in terms of the field itself contributing to the success of the field, whether in fact it is more diverse? I actually don't know the difference. Just like when we're talking nursing, we want to get more men in the field of nursing. I thought, well, what difference does it make in terms of the effectiveness of the field of nursing? Same question. What difference does it make?
Well, the difference is so engineers are mostly men. So they think a certain way, they work a certain way. Women come in, we bring different modes of operation to the table.
Is your brain wired differently?
Brain are wired.
Do you really believe that?
I do.
That women's brains are wired differently, think about problems, solving problems differently than men?
Yep.
Which means what in terms of the field itself?
In terms of the field itself, women often will more group work, more cooperative, problem solving, whereas men, sometimes a little bit more competitive, want to do things a certain way on their own. Women bring a more diversity to the table. For example, because men, predominantly the engineers, voice recognition systems.
Right.
Okay, designed by men. The earliest voice recognition systems did not recognize women's voices.
Really?
Because they were calibrated to men's voices. Same thing with airbags. The first airbags designed man's body. They weren't thinking about women and children. So women and children were killed in accidents that were avoidable.
So the quality of the products being produced will ultimately be better when there are more women in the field.
Exactly, for everybody. Because you're bringing a different mindset to the table.
Obviously, why you need more women in the field of broadcasting,
Yeah.
more women in producing. No, seriously.
Yes.
Last question. I'm curious about this. How'd you get into this whole thing?
Into
the whole field of science, technology, engineering, math. Why do you even care?
Why do I even care about it? Growing up, I was fortunate enough to have teachers that said, "You are good at this."
Oh, you were encouraged.
I was encouraged. And my father's a biochemist, so he encouraged us, But in school, my favorite math teacher happened to be a woman, and she was like, "You've got it. Go for it," kind of thing, And that really, I am just as good as the boys sitting in the classroom. It meant a lot.
Having that role model,
it really
that
did
mentor.
mean a lot. That one day when I was like, wow, she does think I'm smart, and she thinks I can do this just as well as any of the boys in the room.
But before I let you out here, what does that say about the importance of that teacher?
If I could tell her now, I wish I did then, being a 18-year-old, I didn't think to reach out and tell her how much she meant to me. But now, she changed my life. She
changed your life.
She made me consider a career that wasn't even in my, in the forefront. I thought I would be a teacher, but never thought I would be a math teacher, math professor.
Well, Debbie Poetch, professor of mathematics at County College of Morris, that teacher did that for you, and I have a feeling that you continually do it for other young women and young men every day. So I want to thank you very much for the work you do.
Thank you.
Great stuff.
Thanks.
Thank you.
One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating 25 years of broadcast excellence. Funding for this edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been provided by New Jersey's credit unions, PSE&G, the New Jersey Education Association, Health Republic Insurance of New Jersey, the Healthcare Foundation of New Jersey, and by Celgene Corporation. Transportation provided by Airbrook Limousine, serving the metropolitan New York, New Jersey area. One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been produced in partnership with St. Joseph's Healthcare System.